I didn't flip the table. I didn't scream. I didn't launch a chair through the glass wall of the server room. At 2:14 a.m., with the main dashboard bleeding red and the cooling fans screaming like jet engines taking off, I simply reached down, unplugged my headset, and placed my security badge on the desk. 3 feet away, Brad was hyperventilating. Actually, hyperventilating. He was gripping his hair, staring at the monitor where the error logs were scrolling so fast they looked like a blur of white static. We were losing about $45,000 every single minute. The entire logistics network for the East Coast had just gone dark. Trucks were frozen at gates in Jersey. Automated sorting bots in Atlanta had stopped moving, and the tracking system for 3 million packages just vanished. Nick, man, I can't. It's not accepting the override, Brad yelled, his voice cracking. He looked at me, sweat literally dripping off his nose onto his pristine, custom mechanical keyboard. What is error 4049? Nick, why isn't the backup spinning up? I looked at Brad. Then I looked at the urgent retention allocations email printed on the desk. The one Emma, our director of operations, had carelessly left in the printer tray 5 minutes ago when she ran out to get coffee for the war room. Brad, $55,000 retention bonus. Title, Senior Innovation Lead. Nick, $4,200 appreciation stipend. Title, Senior Systems Architect. Brad had been here for 8 months. He spent most of his time posting LinkedIn thought leadership articles about synergy and AI-driven workflows. I had been here for 12 years. I built the system that was currently crashing. I was the only person in the building, maybe the only person in the state, who knew the manual command sequence to stop the database from eating itself alive. Nick? Brad's eyes were wide, terrified white discs. Why are you packing your bag? Shift's over, Brad, I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. Calm. Dangerously calm. Good luck with the innovation. You can't leave. We're in a code black. Emma will kill us. I zipped my backpack. The sound was loud in the sudden silence of the room. Correction? Emma will kill you. I don't work here anymore. I walked out the double doors, past the biometric scanners, and into the cool night air. My phone started vibrating in my pocket before I even reached my car. I didn't block the number. I just turned the volume off, threw it on the passenger seat, and drove home. The decision hadn't been impulsive. It was the snap of a cable that had been fraying for a decade. For 12 years, I was the ghost in the machine at Velocity Logistics. I was the guy they called at 3 a.m. on Christmas. I was the guy who fixed the API integration during my honeymoon. I was the guy who saved the company $7 million last year by optimizing the routing algorithm, a project Emma took credit for during the quarterly all-hands meeting while I was in the server room patching a vulnerability. But this was different. We were in the middle of Operation Peak, the internal name for the week before Black Friday. The volume was insane. The stress was palpable. Management had been terrified of turnover, so they announced a strategic retention initiative. We're taking care of our key players, Emma had told us in the Monday briefing, flashing that shark-like smile. We know the market is hot, and we want you to know we value your loyalty. Loyalty. I found out what loyalty was worth when I walked past the printer. Brad was 28. He was Emma's nephew's college roommate or something. Nobody knew for sure, but he came in with a shiny MBA and 0 technical skills. He called meetings to discuss workflows, but couldn't write a line of SQL code to save his life. And he was worth $55,000 to them. I was 41. I was the infrastructure, and I was worth $4,200, less than a used Honda Civic. When I got home, I poured myself a bourbon and sat on my back porch. It was 3 a.m. My phone lighted up on the table. Emma, 14 missed calls. Brad, 22 missed calls. Alert system, critical failure, node. 4. Alert system, critical failure, node. Embois. I watched the screen blink. It was mesmerizing. The thing about the system I built it wasn't broken. It was temperamental. It required a specific sequence of load balancing commands when the volume hit a certain threshold. It was a flaw in the legacy code I had begged them to let me rewrite for 3 years. It's not in the budget, Nick, Emma had said, checking her watch. Just patch it. Keep it running. That's your job. So I did. I kept it running. I built a manual override that only worked if you knew the exact syntax. I had documented it, of course. It was in the emergency procedures folder on the shared drive. But Brad didn't read documentation. Brad read the 4-hour work week. At 3:30 a.m., a text came through from Emma. Nick, pick up the phone, now. This isn't funny. We are losing $50K a minute. If you don't answer, I'm calling legal. Legal. That was their play. I took a sip of bourbon. I knew my contract. I was an at-will employee. I could leave at any time, for any reason. And I hadn't sabotaged anything. I just stopped preventing the inevitable. At 4 a.m., my wife, Sarah, came downstairs, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She saw the bottle of bourbon and the phone lighting up like a disco ball. "Did you get fired?" she asked, pulling her robe tighter. "Better," I said. "I quit." I told her the numbers, 55,000 versus 4,200. Sarah didn't look worried. She didn't ask about the mortgage or the kids' tuition. She walked over, took the phone, looked at the frantic texts from Emma threatening lawsuits, police, and ruin. And then she looked at me. "Let it burn," she said, and she went back to bed. By Wednesday morning, the 12 hours after I walked out, the situation had escalated from a technical glitch to a national news story. Velocity Logistics handled shipping for 3 major retail giants. Twitter was exploding with people complaining about delayed packages. The stock price had dipped 4% in pre-market trading. I was eating scrambled eggs when a black sedan pulled into my driveway. It wasn't the police. It was Emma. She looked like she hadn't slept in a week. Her blazer was wrinkled, her eyes red-rimmed. She banged on my front door. I opened it, coffee in hand. "You need to come back," she said. No hello, no apology, just a frantic demand. "Now!" Brad tried to roll back the database, and he deleted the routing tables, Nick. He deleted the backups. I took a sip of coffee. "Sounds like an innovation issue. Have you tried asking him to leverage his synergy?" "Stop it." She pushed past me into the hallway. "Do you have any idea how much money we're losing? The CEO is flying in. We are talking about millions, Nick. Millions." "I know," I said. "I saw the email, Emma, the retention one." She froze. The color drained out of her face faster than the data from the company's servers. That was a draft," she stammered. "That wasn't final. We were going to discuss your package." "Brad got 55,000, I said, my voice flat. "I got 4. You pay Brad to talk about work. You paid me to do it. But you decided the talk was worth 10 times more than the work. So I'm letting Brad talk the server back online." "I can fix the money," she said, desperate now. "I can get you 20,000 right now. A signing bonus. Just come fix it." "No. 30. Get out of my house, Emma. You can't do this. We'll sue you for negligence. We'll destroy your reputation." "I didn't break it," I said, opening the door for her. "I just stopped holding it together. And as for my reputation, I think the guy who was the only one keeping Velocity Logistics running is a pretty good reputation to have." She stood there for a second, mouth opening and closing like a fish. Then she stormed out. I watched her drive away, then I went to my home office and updated my LinkedIn status to open to work. Within an hour, my inbox was pinging. Not with threats, but with recruiters, headhunters from Amazon, FedEx, DHL. Word travels fast in this industry. Everyone knew Velocity was melting down. Everyone knew I was the architect, and everyone could do the math. If the system crashed the second I left, I wasn't the problem. I was the linchpin. But Velocity wasn't done. On Thursday, 2 days after the walkout, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was the CEO, a guy named Sterling, who I had met exactly once in 12 years. "Nick," he said. His voice was gravelly. "I'm looking at a report that says our entire East Coast operation is currently being run on spreadsheets and whiteboards. I'm looking at a loss projection of $12 million for the week, and I'm told you're sitting at home because of a payroll dispute." "It's not a payroll dispute, Mr. Sterling," I said. "It's a valuation discrepancy. Emma is fired," he said, just like that. "Brad is fired. He's currently being escorted out of the building. I don't care about the politics, Nick. I care about my trucks moving. Name your price." I paused. I looked at the garden where my kids were playing. I looked at the peace I had felt for the last 48 hours. "I don't want the job back," I said. Silence. "Everyone has a price, Nick." "I don't want to be an employee," I clarified. "If you want me to fix the mess Brad made, I come in as an external consultant, independent contractor." "Fine. What's the rate?" $400 an hour, I said. "Minimum 100-hour retainer, paid up front. And I wanted in writing that I have zero operational dependency on your internal team. I work alone." That's $40,000, Sterling said, "for a week's work." "It's not for the week's work," I said. "It's for the 12 years of knowing which button to press. And it's for the $55,000 you gave the guy who broke it." He didn't argue. "Send the contract." I fixed the system in 6 hours. It wasn't magic. It was a corrupted index file that Brad had exacerbated by forcing a restart during a read-write cycle. Any competent sysadmin could have spotted it, but they had fired the competent ones to hire innovators. I walked into the building on Friday morning. The office was a ghost town. The war room smelled like stale pizza and panic sweat. Emma's office was dark. Brad's desk was empty, his mechanical keyboard gone. I sat at my old desk. I ran the script. I watched the dashboards turn from angry red to soothing green. The trucks started moving, the packages started tracking, the bleeding stopped. I finished at 2 p.m. I printed my invoice, walked it into Sterling's office, and placed it on his desk. "You're done?" he asked, looking up from a pile of legal documents. System is stable. I set up an automated cron job to handle the load balancing, so you won't need manual overrides anymore. Even a senior innovation lead should be able to keep it running now. Sterling looked at the invoice. Then he looked at me. "We could offer you the CTO position, Nick. Serious money. We need someone who actually knows what they're doing." I laughed. It was a genuine belly laugh. "Mr. Sterling, you had someone who knew what they were doing for $110,000 a year. You chose to insult him to save a few pennies while throwing gold at a kid who knew buzzwords. You don't have a talent problem, you have a culture problem, and I'm too expensive to fix your culture." I took the check. I walked out of that building for the second time in a week. The sun was shining. The air smelled like autumn. I took the next 2 months off. I built a treehouse for my kids. I took Sarah to Italy. We drank wine and didn't talk about servers or latency or retention bonuses. When I got back, I started my own consultancy. My first client? One of Velocity's biggest competitors. They hired me to audit their infrastructure. The fee was $250 an hour. They paid it without blinking. 6 months later, I heard Velocity was acquired by a private equity firm. They stripped it for parts. The legacy code finally died, replaced by a cheap off-the-shelf solution that was slow, buggy, and hated by everyone. I sometimes think about that night, the red lights, the panic in Brad's eyes, the sheer suffocating weight of being the only adult in the room. They say everyone is replaceable, and that's true, but the cost of replacement isn't just the salary of the new guy. It's the cost of the fire that burns down the house, while the new guy is trying to figure out how to use the hose. I kept the badge, though. It's in my desk drawer, next to the check for $40,000. I look at it whenever I have to negotiate a contract. It reminds me of the most important lesson I ever learned in business. Your value isn't what you do. It's what happens when you stop doing it. And sometimes you have to let the world burn a little bit, just to show them you're the one holding the water.